anime?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Any ADR.
Yeah,
Sure. We'll start with intros. Hi guys, my name is Marissa Lenti. I am an ADR director, obviously because the ADR director's panel. I've directed series like Kimono Friends, Crime 9, Adachi and Shimamura, Arte, and Gunbuster, which is premiering today. Very exciting, finally. And over here,
Hi, I'm Caitlin Barr. I think I'm on this panel because I'm an ADR writer. I'm not a director. I've directed plays and things, but I can give you supplemental writer answers to things about ADR. I've been writing scripts for ADR for anime dubs for like 9 years, so I'm sure I can say something helpful.
you got me my first ADR writer job.
I did. Oh my god!
did.
It was
It was
Dave's show.
Yeah, Tana Never Falls in Love.
Never Falls in Love. That's what it was.
There it is.
Same.
And now I'm still writing scripts for Dave.
Good. As it should be. All's right with the world. God's in his heaven.
I'm Joel McDonald. I've been working in video games for the past 4.5 years. Before that, has anyone seen anime in the past like 15 years? I directed that. I was at Funimation for about 11 years, so I directed all of the things.
All the things.
Beautiful.
So are we doing? How are we gonna do this? We gonna do this Q&A style?
Yo, Q&A style, baby.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Anybody have a Q for the A's?
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
As far as the writing part goes, how do you balance translation, saying true to words, but also like the flaps?
Thank you. I think we can all speak to this. But it's definitely a delicate balance, right? Because you're always, no matter how close you stick to the translation, you're still not going to get, there's still a level of adaptation there before you even touch it, right? So for the subtitlers, they have to fit, like if you're watching an anime that's subtitled, you're still watching an adapted version of the translation because they have to fit that on screen and, have it end before the next person starts talking. So, there's always people that are like very loyal to the subbed version because it's the way it was originally written. But more people need to understand that that's also an adaptation.
The rough translation looks nothing like this.
Yes, exactly. For me, it depends on a lot of factors. The most important one being what the licensor prefers, the company that owns the IP. Sometimes, I'm sure some of you guys remember Ghost Stories. I always use that as an example. Ghost Stories is a very old dub that ADV did forever ago. That's a joke dub. It's the only one that I know of that is like that.
We did one.
What did you do?
Island of Giant Insects.
Oh, you did that as a joke dub? I know what show you're talking about.
But that was at the request of the Japanese.
That's what I was gonna say, is that Ghost Stories, that the licensor said go nuts. Just keep the characters' names the same. And it's, if you've seen it or seen clips from it, it's off the wall, right? But then you'll also have, that's an extreme case. You'll have licensors who want everything to be like, okay, we have these attack names that don't sound at all right in English, but you have to keep them this way. They'll have their own requests. And there's also the director's preference. Sometimes the directors want to add a little more comedy, go a little further from translation, and sometimes they want to stick absolutely as close as possible. So I try to take all those things into consideration. And the important thing is to get across the intent that the creator's intent. Even if a joke doesn't work in English the way it works in Japanese, you still need to get a laugh in the same spot, if you can. Even if it's not the same joke, because that joke doesn't make sense in English, right? That's my long answer on the panel that I'm not.
And as far as flaps are concerned, writing a line and then just testing it is usually what has to happen. You say it out loud while the video is playing and go, do I think that's going to fit? Mm-hmm. And then sometimes depending on who the actor is, you might be like, oh, but he reads really slow, or she reads really fast, so I got to put more words or less words. So it's really just like a trial and error kind of thing. And I mean, the worst case scenario is you put a couple options and you go, I don't know, whichever one fits, you pick. And then the director goes, all right, fine, I'll pick.
Yeah, if you walk through the writer's department at Crunchyroll, you hear a lot of people mumbling to themselves, and that's why.
I mean that's really importantly. Talking about like keeping the intent the same and like the laughs in the right place and stuff like that. And like the idea is like you're not making a new show. You're making the same show accessible to a new audience. And so it has to feel the same. And a lot of the times, especially with comedy, it's really difficult. But I mean, I wrote every episode of Hunter x Hunter, and the movies and whatever. And it was, but Viz is very very particular about they want to stick close to the manga, like to the point where I was like, well, this doesn't match flaps. And they're like, what are those? But it really is. But like I mean. Anyone who tells you like that a direct translation is like necessary doesn't speak two languages, because there's no such thing as a direct translation. Like the example that I always use is in Japanese. In English, if you say piece of cake, in Japanese you normally translate that to asa nishimae, which means before breakfast. And neither of those things literally means this will be easy. And so you've got to really not only take into consideration the words that are being said, but what the person listening understands it to be, what the audience understands it to be, what is being said. And what is being said is not generally the words. And so there's a lot of juggling to be done, and a good writer can make it seem seamless. But at the same time, like it really is a lot of times up to the will of the licensor. Like I know. Sergeant Frog, I got to direct a lot of that and adapt the scripts, but the licensor told us we want it to be funny in the same way it's funny in Japan, but y'all don't know what White Day is, and so like there's a lot of like kind of figuring out how to put a new joke here, what's funny to us. I know when Jimmy Markey adapted the script for Penny Stocking, and she was told by the Japanese licensor, we have had to be very careful around Japanese like lewdness laws and kind of morality stuff there. They said, we know you don't have the same thing, so we would love it if you were investigated by the American government. And if you've seen Penny and Stocking, you know that Jamie took that note to heart. It was like, it's hardcore. So I mean, really, it's and I don't know. A lot of times, dub companies get flack for like, well, you didn't pronounce the name of this character right, or you changed this joke or whatever. Like, anything that the dub company does is under the watchful eye of the Japanese licensor. So like, if you're mad about how they pronounce something, get mad at Japan.
I get as particular on flaps as like mouth shape and double flaps at the end. So if it ends with two quick little flaps, you gotta put a 2-syllable word there at the end. Or like if the character's mouth makes an O shape, you gotta put an O word in there. Because it just looks nicer.
Yeah.
It just looks better. And there's pretty much no instance where you're going to come up against flaps that are like, these are unworkable. I can't think of a single sentence that can go in there. There's a way.
Oh, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
One of the first scripts that I adapted was Claymore. I don't remember much about it except that like badass women are badass. Like that was it was just like big swords and boobs. And but there was a scene where there was this woman giving this very rousing speech to like the troops, saying like, women, we must band together, we must invade, like we cannot let them push us around anymore. It's just in Japanese it was a wonderful speech, and the flaps are very distinct, and it was blah blah.
Oh gosh.
But I was just like, God, and I tried, and I put in several different options, and one was just like, girls, fight. Yeah, it's just like, but then of course you have to include one that says what's supposed to be said, and just ignore the animation entirely, which they did, so whatever,
Yeah, I mean, of course that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We did have one like that on the City Hunter movie, where the line was, hey, what do you think of my dress? Because the girl like dresses in like a very pretty dress, and she's normally not very girly. And she walks up, and it's 3 distinct, separate flaps, and it ended up being, hey, so thoughts? Which worked, but it's one of those things where it's like, why would you do that to me? But usually,
I took that
unless it's
personally.
like that, usually you can figure something.
One of my favorite was in Sergeant Frog, which is super fun. And if you guys ever watched it, it's like Animaniacs, but like from Japan. Like there's a lot of fun stuff. But there was a scene in I think it's season 1, episode 10. Remember that, where Keroro has to Todd Haberkorn's character has to go inside his own mouth to like handle a cavity situation. But like in Alien Frogs, it's not like cavities like we have. His mouth has been invaded by cavidians. They're like little aliens that like. Anyway, it's super dumb, but it's so much fun. Chuck Huber's character, like, who's a mad scientist, creates this like little mini like metal like mecha representation of Kero, and so he like kind of uploads it into that, and he goes inside his own mouth and fights like Canadians or whatever. But in the Japanese, there's this stupid little scene where he's supposed to like detonate a bomb like inside his own mouth with this little like avatar, and instead of a bomb, Kulu is put in like he hits the button and like his head like sprinklers come out of his head, a little flower pops up, whatever, and he's trying to get him killed. And in the Japanese, he goes, "Wah!" I guess just this like frustrated noise, but there are distinct flaps, and I was like, we gotta put something there. And while we were trying to figure out what was the funniest, Todd was like, give me a shot at it, and we just ran it, and he goes, stupid fucking Kulu! He won't be F-bomb the entire thing, and we laughed so hard, we bleeped it and left it in.
Oh my god.
It was really good. Yeah.
Sometimes it is fun to just throw out the line and write something. Because on the whole, you want to keep the intent the same as what's going on in the Japanese, but there are some lines that are inconsequential. Like, it does not matter if a character says, like, hey, you going to lunch tomorrow? Like, it's not part of the story. It's just there for flavor.
Right.
So you can write a little something extra. If it makes the English version flow better, I will completely change the order that topics are being talked about in a scene,
Yeah.
just so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, when you directly compare them, you're like, oh, they're different. But if you watch the whole show, you're like, I basically got the same show out of that.
Right.
And as long as that happens, I think it's fine. So I just throw things out, change stuff. A show I just directed last season was called Tribe 9. I was just telling you about this morning. There's a character who's foreign in that, and we don't know from where. He's just foreign. They never specify where from, but it's important that he is the foreign guy, because he messes up his idioms and sayings. So in English, he's Irish, and we threw out all of the messing up idiom stuff and replaced it with authentic Northern Irish slang, which was awesome. And the guy who did it, he's from Ireland, so he would just suggest stuff. So the character is very different from Japanese to English. He's just got a very different vibe, because suddenly he's Irish. But I think that it makes it make more sense. Right. Instead of me being like, here's another American guy, but keep in mind he's foreign because he messes up his idioms, and we're like, I don't get it. You wouldn't remember that he was foreign.
What I always say to people who are very like upset about adaptation choices is, would you rather have something that's basically gets you from point A to point B, gets the laugh, gets the emotional response, gets the information across, that's not quite translation, or would you rather have a translation note that takes up half the screen?
Because it will happen, where sometimes it's like, that doesn't make... I'm working on a show right now that's all manzai comedy, and manzai comedy is just not funny in English. It's not at all.
That is.
Manzai is straight man, funny man, so it's just two guys. If you've ever seen characters go like this, where they slap each other when one of them tells the joke, that's manzai.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious if you get all of the references and you understand what they're, because they'll reference like a game show from 1980, and you know, like it's like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. So it's not funny. And it's very important that like, okay, is the show supposed to be funny? Then we have to change every joke, basically.
Right.
And it's more important for the show to be funny than for the jokes to be the same.
Right, exactly. Good question.
Yeah.
We got like 20 minutes of
We have time for one more question.
Yeah, who else has a question?
Yeah.
And if you don't,
We're just gonna be talking.
questions. Gigi!
Well, so out of all the many hats that you all wear, what is your most passionate hat? Is it the writing kind of thing? Is it the directing kind of thing? The casting? Like where, if you could only pick one thing to do for the rest of your career, which one would it be?
Casting. Casting is so fun. Casting is the best part of this job, in my opinion.
I hate it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I love it. I love finding people from all over the place and being like, you be in the anime. And then it's just fun. Especially when a show comes out with a very unique casting landscape where I'm just like, yeah, we got all these like interesting, weird people in here. And like, again, Tribe 9's a great example where I'm like, this guy's from Ireland, and then I've got a YouTuber as my villain, and I've got like Casey Mangelo as one of of my leads, and then Brittany Karpowski is another one of my leads. And I'm like, I don't know if you two have ever been in a show together. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so cool getting to hear combinations of actors who otherwise never meet. And like we're all doing anime, but sometimes there are certain people where it's like, I've never been in a show with you ever because we're on opposite sides of the country. When I was doing Arte, I wanted an all Italian American cast. And so I was like, I'm gonna have to search to the ends of the earth to find these people because there are only so many of us in anime. And it ended up being that like Wayne Grayson was up for it. And I was like, this guy, Joey Wheeler, in my Funimation Silent Hub. It was just cool, you know? Just slap him in there. And you're like, I've never heard him act off of Gianni Montegrano, who was primarily a internet voice actor, and Felicia Angel, who is, you know, Texas at the time. So it's just fun. I love it. Obviously, the directing part after that is also one of my favorites because then I get to actually orchestrate how they all interact. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick casting. It's just so fun.
You Joel, because I don't think this question applies to me.
Alright, well, so I will agree that like finding the right actor or the right cast is amazing. The problem's getting there. Like, like the last project that we auditioned for, we got on average 800 submissions for each part. And when you have to listen to 800 auditions, you start to hate everyone. Especially, oh my god, especially if it's an accent audition. Like, accent auditions are my least favorite thing in the world. Because you're like, I need a believable French accent. And everyone's like, where, I'm a skunk and I'm gonna try to play it anyway.
Are you dunking on my French accent in Port Orleans?
Did you do it? Oh. Maybe.
No, you asked me to do cartoons.
I did. Yeah, casting's hard for me. But like, you know, when you find the right one, that's awesome. It's magic. For me, like, I'm gonna kind of like hedge my bet because, like, I've worked as a producer, writer, actor, director, and voice coach. And my favorite thing, kind of, what's the difference between director and coach? I used to teach a lot of workshops on how to get in the video industry, how to get an agent, how to get a demo, how to work consistently. And my favorite thing that I do is to help a good actor become a great actor and turn a solid read into an unforgettable read. And so helping really talented people, or people who could be talented but just don't know how yet, is just helping people to find better ways to connect with the character, to connect with themselves, and subsequently to connect with the audience, which is what acting's all about. And like, I miss acting like crazy. My favorite kind of acting is stage acting, but I would rather eat. So I don't do that. But yeah, no, my favorite thing is to workshop something with an actor and be like, oh, that was really good. Let's try this. Like, to me, that's playtime. And yeah, it's my favorite thing. Like, it just, unfortunately, coaching doesn't tend to pay super well. So, you know, every artistic endeavor, you've got to kind of split the difference between, like, what's the most fun and rewarding for me versus what will pay my water bill. So.
That's the first one.
That's a great question.
Yeah. We should have more great questions. Where are the other great? You don't have one? I don't know.
I've never questioned. There's like a bag of tools.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there were the trash bags too. There's a bunch of trash bags.
Oh god.
It's up here.
Is this actually in Dexter?
Building a good dove.
101.
Yes.
This really was the worst thing you could have left on this table.
Yeah, we're drunk with power now.
Yeah.
Who else has a question about ADR directing or writing? Since I'm here.
What's up?
Yeah.
Were you interested in directing before you got into the industry?
I'm still interested in directing.
I wasn't until I realized it was a thing that needed to be done, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neato. And then at the time I was dating the guy who made Death Battle, and he was like, I'm sick of casting voice actors. He's like, every time there's an episode, I gotta cast freaking voice matches, and I'm bad at it, and I hate it. And I was like, I can do that. A little baby voice actor that I I was like, oh, I did that. And the first one I did was Gara versus Toph. And I was like, oh, Liam O'Brien is Gara. And I was like, get Chris Guerrero. And then I got Kira Buckland to be Toph. And I was like, that was fun. We could do that again. And I've been doing that since. It's been like 6 or 7 years at this point.
Wow. Yeah,
From
it
like
has, because
season 3 to 9. So 6 years? Question mark? But as I was doing that, I was like, this is really fun. I want to keep doing this. And then Aaron Disby taught me how to direct on And from there, I was like, yeah, I want to keep doing that. And then Amberly Connors offered me a job at Sound Cadence, and that's where I've done most of my directing. So yeah, had no clue. Wanted to just be a voice actor. Got introduced slowly to each of these different jobs, and then you were like, you want to write? I was like, yeah, I want to write. So, I mean, I find that this is very much true of the anime industry, is that a lot of the people who are working in the staff positions were voice actors or engineers or something first. And then we were all like, I need to pay my bills, let me learn how to do all the other jobs.
Yeah.
And then you just sort of find the one that you like, and you chill there. You chill there.
Yeah. I definitely didn't set out to direct. At the time that I guess probably a lot of us got involved in the industry, you could just kind of wander in. Like that doesn't happen anymore. Like people ask me like, how do I get involved? I'm like, oh, you're so screwed. I was actually working as a carpenter at the time. I was a senior carpenter for the Dallas Children's Theater, and I was hanging out with Colleen and Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey, who I'd met through the theater scene. And I had auditioned for anime before, and I was bad. I was very bad, and they asked me to not do that anymore. But then they needed, they basically had more shows than they had directors for, and so Colleen asked me if I would be interested in doing a trial run as a sub-director, basically. And by the time they got me trained, they needed a director. And so I stayed on, it was contract by contract, so I think I did 6 weeks at a time. And I gotta tell you, I wasn't like super passionate about it at first, because I was doing a lot of different gigs, and so it was just one of the gigs. But within just a couple of episodes of the first show that I worked on was Tsubasa season 2. And they put me there because it was already an established cast. I didn't have to do a lot of casting because I didn't know the community. But I got to work with Tatum and Monica and Liebricht and just like some rock stars in the industry, and I got to see what they were able to do with just their voices. And also, as a stage actor myself, like I know the difference in a product when you've got a really solid director at the helm versus someone who's maybe not as solid. And so it just, to me, it was kind of just be the change you want to see in the world kind of thing. Like I was like, I know the kind of director that I respond to best. And I didn't see a lot of directors like that working in theater, and not enough working in theater. And so I just kind of basically was just like, I still to this day do not think of myself as a director. I'm just an actor who saw the project before you did. Like, that's really, because like, well, I know what you need to know to make it good, and make good choices, and so like, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. I'm not going to mess with the stuff you don't need to know. And so, yeah, like eventually, like Gearbox is going to figure out what's going on with me. I'm going to get fired, and I'll go back to I'll be an actor again. But until then, like I still, like I said, I just don't think of myself as a actor.
Just the guy that holds all the cards.
Yeah, that's right.
I do like, I had a show where one of the characters dies in like the 3rd episode, and I intentionally didn't tell anybody so I could get the authentic reactions.
Right.
And then one of my actors, who's also a friend of mine, goes into the group chat that had been made for the entire main cast and was like, hey, so-and-so, you did a great job with your death scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, you idiot! I was like, Casey doesn't know yet. And he was like, what? And they all spammed the group chat so that Casey wouldn't see it. And Casey was like, what's happening? Why am I getting so many things? And they're like, don't look. Don't look.
So I did the same. So I directed Dead Man Wonderland, and
we're rewatching that.
Dude, it's so good. And if you haven't seen it, I don't even know if I should tell you to watch it or not, because it's like super gruesome. There's still a scene that I watched when I previewed like the Japanese, and I never watched it again. Even when we dubbed it, I just told Sykes, I was like, just do it, let me know when it's over. Like, it's horrible.
For the eye scene?
Yeah, oh yeah. But it's super good. But like, the mystery is who killed an entire classroom full of kids. And at the end, you find out. And but there's some scenes in the middle where you kind of like, oh my god, like I think I know who it is. And I intentionally, this was back before broadcast episodes, so we could do the entire season at a time. We skipped an entire episode with my leads so that they wouldn't know. And so at the very, very end, I was like, cool, we're out of the series. And Monica was just like, well, we still don't know who did the, you know, I was like, oh, you're right, one more scene to do.
What if you just forgot?
Yeah.
You turned it in, one episode's missing, and they're like, what, come on. I did that to Susie Young, who's my leading kimono friend, has a fake out. So every time she was like, how many hours do I have in episode 12? I was like, oh, who knows? And she was like, why are you being so weird about it? And I'm like, oh, it's a mystery. And at the end of episode 11, they fake you out. I think she's dead. And she screamed. She screamed. And we recorded it. It was very funny.
And when we recorded Borderlands 3, you guys have all played Borderlands 3? Yes. Okay. Because I'm gonna.
It's a prerequisite for this panel.
I'm gonna spoil it.
And you all played Mom.
I'm gonna spoil it, and I want to know that that's your fault. Like, it's on you for not having played it. It's been out for like 3 years. So it's a wonderful game you should play. There's a character from Borderlands 2, Maya, that's voiced by Martha Harms. She's a playable character in Borderlands 2, and in Borderlands 3, she's killed. She dies. She's super dies, and it's awesome. But when I told Martha when we brought her to record, I was like, "Hey, we're doing your death scene today," and she was like, "Really? Awesome!" and she was so jazzed about it. Like I told her everything was happening, and she kept asking for more takes because she was having so much fun. And then we brought in Colleen Clinkenberry, who plays Lilith, and at the very end, I was like, "Cool!" And at the very end, you go flying up at the moon, and there's a huge explosion, and then you're gone. She was like, "Am I dead?" I was like, "I don't know." She's like, "If you fucking kill me," total opposite reaction. She's like, "You are not taking me out of this franchise." Like, I'm not doing anything.
It's written a little different when you're the originator voice versus when you're dubbing something, you're like, can't do anything about it, he dies,
I know,
he's gone. I felt very bad for Jacob Hopkins was the character that dies, and he was like joking about it, because he was like, oh, he keeps like alluding to the fact that like he might die, and I was like, yeah, because he super does, and he was like, no. He's like, well, I'm here for a while, right? I don't die in like episode 3. And I'm like, that's exactly the episode you die in, actually. And he's like, there's no way!
I can't remember the name of the show, but I wrote a few episodes on it, a show where in Japan, it was like the next big show from this like certain production company, and it was like, everyone couldn't wait to see what they were coming out with next. And they started leaking like character by character, like here's the commander of the army, and here's the sergeant, and like they were like even had like trading cards that came out, and like everyone before the first episode even came out, everyone's like, this is my favorite, like this is I stand this guy, I ship these two, whatever. And then the first episode, like 2/3 of the way through, all dead. Everyone just wiped them out. And all of a sudden it's like the B team that's just like, I thought I wasn't in PC. Like, nah, bitch. It's super good.
Who else has a question?
Yes. Okay, so as ADR director, you work with a lot of people. Have there anyone you have a hard time working with, and how do you resolve that?
You want to say
How
again?
do you resolve it? Do you have anybody that you have had a hard time working with, and how do you resolve that?
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. How do you resolve it? It depends.
Actors are strong personalities. Well, can be. But like, I mean, but for me, I mean, like for the most part, like people tend to be strong personalities when they care about the project. Like, and so like there are going to be disagreements about like the best tactic or the best approach to a certain thing. But I don't personally shy. And most directors I've worked with, I know Marissa doesn't. We don't shy away from like conversation. Like, what's the best way to approach this? But like, it's when like there has to be an authority. There has to be somebody who says, no, we got to do it. You know, and that's the director. And so the only problem really arises when an actor says no. You know, and then it's like I've had to you know, like flex a couple times. Like there was one time there was an actor that had passed away. We had to do a voice match. We had to replace this actor for continuing character. And I was a baby director. I didn't know what I was doing. But I was sent this actor that someone else, my producer, thought would be a good fit, and it was a good fit. It was a really good fit. And he knew I was new, and he didn't like that I was new. He wanted to be the director. And so at one point during his kind of audition session, I was like, cool. I like the read. I really do like the read, but it came in a little bit short. Can you give me one that's just a little bit slower? And he buzzed through it super fast, like just read. It was like, okay, maybe you misunderstood. I'm sorry. Maybe I misspoke. It needs to take longer. So can you slow it down some? And he did it even faster. And my engineer kind of gave me this look, and I realized, oh my God, he's messing with me. And I was like, hey, dude, I'm gonna give you one more chance. Like I want you in this role. I think you'd be a good fit. But if we're gonna have a hard time with timing, or if there's some maybe disagreement about who should be running the session, then I'm not sure this is gonna work out. And it got a lot nicer. But I mean, I don't know, I like just about everybody, and I will always try to find a resolution. But sometimes that means you don't get paid if you don't do what I say, you know.
Yeah.
And I've only had to do that once, twice, 3 times, 4 times.
Yeah, I think for me one of the hardest decisions is do I recast or do I deal with this?
Yeah.
And it sucks to have to make that choice. And I usually stick with deal with this. I don't like recasting, especially if any of the show is already public.
Yeah.
I hate recasting and being like, suddenly in episode 3 it's a different guy, and it's like, what happened there? I would much rather deal with it, even if someone is being disagreeable, and just, okay, if they're gonna be a certain way about it, I just have to change my personality to kind of vibe with them until it's done.
But too, and it's because the question about actor personalities, I guess, comes up in various forms a lot. The people that are difficult to work with, the ones that are really hard to have in the booth, they're not the good actors. You know what I mean?
You're not. It's like you're not hot enough to be this mean.
Yeah.
It's the same energy.
Well, it's you got your mid-tier celebrities that or not celebrities, but voice actors that have something to prove. They've got an axe to grind, and they're going to be jerks because they think that's what's expected of them. But then you've got Lucy Christian, who is the greatest dub actor of all time, and it's just couldn't be a nice person if you paid her.
That's true.
So
I have found that the actors who come in and are super stellar are usually also the nicest people, and it's that makes my job easy. Just cast that guy again.
Right.
And I mean, that's why you see the same people pop up over and over and over again, because they're good and they're sweet.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes you'll get someone who's just a problem for whatever reason, and you have to make that choice.
Yeah.
Very rarely have I ever recast.
Yeah. Well, I don't like recasting just because it's a lot of work. But also, I
hate the continuity problem.
Yeah, it's a continuity issue.
And I'm such a stickler for continuity. Whenever there's flashbacks in shows, if they're re-record this because the animation's different, I'm like, no. We squish it, we stretch it, we find a different line.
Right.
If it's a flashback, it better be to something that actually happened.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. So, changing voices, I hate having to do it. And so I'd rather not.
It happens, but yeah.
You deal with it.
Next question.
We demand questions. Oh my gosh.
Questions from the question gods.
Yeah.
So, could you give me your thoughts on line reading your voice actors?
Don't do it.
Some voice actors say they hate it when directors do that. I personally, I'd rather you tell me exactly what you want.
It's a last
resort. Yeah.
It's a last resort.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of rude to do to people.
That's what they say. Right?
Yeah, it's rude to do it to your actors, especially if you don't know them very well. If you're just line reading them, it's okay, well, the vibe of the session is dead at that point. But if it's an actor that you know really well, or you've been working for a couple hours and you've just got one line where it's really not going to fit unless you say it a certain way, then you go, hey man, I'm really sorry, I'm going to line read you just so that we can get through this one.
Yeah.
And usually people are like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're line reading actors on innocuous lines that really it doesn't matter that hard, then you're exerting too much control for not enough payoff and just killing the vibe.
But you as a director should be able to guide a director into the right read without doing line read.
Right.
And a lot of the time, there's a technique I learned from Nevins that I really like, where he gives the line read and on a different line.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, if the line is, give me my hat back, and I need to emphasize the hat, and he said, emphasize the hat, and you're not doing it. And you're just like, no, you really gotta hit that hat, whatever. And he'll be like, no, it's just like, I want my shirt now. Like, and he'll give you the line, but it's on a different line. And so there's all kinds of things that you can do, and you should exhaust every one of those before you say, do it like me. Like, it's just...
You can usually explain what you mean.
Yeah.
Just
Well, an actor never gives a bad read. They give the right read for wrong information. So, like, if they give the wrong read, quote unquote, like, you need to adjust what information you give them.
Yeah.
Like, the problem's on your end. Like, actors always get the credit when things go right. Directors always get the blame when things go wrong. There's no vice versa. But your actor needs the right information to make the right choices. And if their line indicates the wrong choice, that's because you gave them the wrong information. So you gotta fix it.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I get how you're reading it. This guy killed your dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I get it.
Oh, and lie to them, absolutely. Like, lie over the, like, if you got a guy that, like, we were talking about this when I was drinking earlier. If you're working with a green actor and you need, like, and you need a yell, you need just like that, just a mid-range yell. You know they're gonna struggle with it, say shriek. Give me a shriek, hardcore balls to the wall, You might get there. Like, you know, but the lie to them to get the read that you want, and because you know it will work in context.
If you need a 50% from them, you tell them, give me 100%.
Yeah, right.
And then someone who can only give you half is going to get to the 50.
Yeah.
You're like, we got it. Thanks. Thanks.
I use my mallet. You gotta use the mallet.
I'm not gonna pound on the table, I'm just gonna come at you.
Otherwise, we'll ramble for the last 20 minutes.
We will, or we'll ask you
Just like a
questions, and
different
that's
word.
awkward. Say what?
Just like we ran.
What was your favorite show to work on?
Favorite show to work on?
Space Dandy.
Amagi Brilliant Park. No, Zombieland Saga. Zombieland Saga.
That's the problem, is I'm like,
Can't pick.
it's either gotta be Tribe 9 or Kimono Friends.
Top two is fair. Yeah, we get two.
They're very different. They're very different. One is Murder Baseball and the other one's Happy Animal Girls. So completely
I don't know, I'd
different
probably go
shows.
Murder Baseball.
Murder Baseball was fun. I mean, that's why I'm putting it up. Like, I love that. It's so dumb. I love it so dearly. It's by the Danganronpa creator, so all the characters are insane, and the plot doesn't make much sense, and they're all killing each other, and I'm like, it's fun. It's just fun.
That's a nice, easy question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we need more.
More!
If you could work on any show, what would you like to work on? Like, what's your top tier?
Digimon.
Digimon?
I'm obsessed with Digimon. I know everything there is to know about it. If they give me a chance, that would be my go-to.
Sailor Moon, because I'm the same way about Sailor Moon, but
Yes.
Sailor Moon's over, so that's not gonna happen.
You never
But
know.
you
We're
can
talking
make,
about
you
it.
know what?
Movies.
For the
Never know.
third anime, the third iteration, the remake of the remake, maybe.
What if they make another remake in another 20 years?
They might. I don't know. We still gotta tell the story of Chibi-Usa.
I was just gonna say, I always feel like they should explore Wicked Lady much harder.
Oh yeah, for sure, 1000%. There's a Wicked Lady cosplayer here who's like a what are the biker girls called with the long skirts? There's a word for it. Skatebot. Like a delinquent girl. There's like a delinquent, like long skirt back, you
The
know.
word I was looking for was poncho.
Like a punk
But that's,
rock.
I think that's
Punk rock?
Kinda. Anyway, there's a cosplayer here that's Wicked Lady
I love that.
like that. And
That's
it's
cute.
cool.
I
Yeah,
love mashups.
love it. What do you want?
The Witcher.
Yes.
I'm tired of sex scenes being tasteful.
The sex on the horse, damn it! You cowards!
And Henry Cavill bathtub cake is like the best thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Listen, we'll reconvene at the 18 plus panel at 9 o'clock.
That's true.
I'm not allowed to do those anymore. I have kids. But I have stories, y'all.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
No, my wife made a good point. She was like, I know those aren't recorded, but people talk, and our kids are going to learn these stories from someone, and we don't get to decide when.
That's true.
Good point.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Wait, 18 plus panel tonight.
They're gonna learn all this stuff you did in your past anyways, because it's called the internet.
No, I know.
They're gonna
But
find it.
no, there's a bunch of stories I've been telling you. Those I used to tell those panels that are not on the internet, and they're great. I can't wait till they are old enough to listen to it. Yeah, no.
All right. Yes.
What do you think are some main contributing factors to voice acting improving in quality over the past 20 years in animation?
Oh, main contributing factors to voice acting improving in quality over the many years. Definitely technology.
Yeah.
Because you think back when they were doing like Voltron and those dubs, they were doing it on reel-to-reel tape. So you'd get one take and you'd be like, that's it, man, it's going in. I'm not doing this again. Now you can record take, and just throw out the ones that you don't like because it's digital. So it's a lot easier to work with the voice actor, spend more time with the voice actor. It's not that voice actors got better necessarily. I'm sure there were plenty of brilliant voice actors back then.
I think the casting pool got bigger.
The casting pool also getting bigger, I mean, makes all the difference in finding the right voice.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure plenty of those actors back in the day were perfectly fine, but they were dubbing probably on like a little screen, or maybe even without a screen, and they were just taping in reel-to-reel tape, and it's like, whatever you get on the first take, man, that's what's going in.
Yeah.
So definitely technology.
I think another aspect of it is that 20 years ago, there were not, in the West, anime wasn't, if we're just talking about anime wasn't as like well known. Like now you go to any store and there's My Hero Academia stuff. And 20 years ago, it was like anime was like there were like 2 or 3 in the, there was, you know, Pokemon, but stuff that, you know. And so since it's more of a recognized medium now, it's like, you know, there are shortcuts, you know, to, that's the glasses girl.
Right.
Or, you know. And
You can say, oh, she's like Monet-sama type.
Yeah.
People know what you mean.
Give me an Ojo-sama laugh. Like, okay, got it.
Whereas back in the day, if you told someone in like the 50s or, you know, they were like, oh, no, Monet-sama type, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
Huh?
There's definitely shortcuts now, and people are just more familiar with like the anime style performance, I guess.
Well, and I think that's why anime was its own worst enemy early on, because like people knew Speed Racer, like they knew the stuff that you know. And I met Peter Hernandez with Street Racer, and he did not like me. But like that's a story. And not to speak ill of his performance or whatever, but like it was over the top, and I think it matched the art style and everything. But because people knew that sound, people knew the sound of his performance, that carried over for many years. When people were like, oh, I'm auditioning for anime, they didn't know if they were auditioning for Ninja Scroll or whatever. Like they all, and I fell in that same trap in my first couple auditions as well, because I didn't know anime very well. But like you saw that kind of redrift over, I think all the way up to like Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's just like everything's big, you know, and that's there's nothing wrong with that if it fits or whatever. But I think like over time, actors, directors, producers in America have come to learn what anime can and should be, and what it is a medium, and it's not a genre. Like so it's like, you know, there's so many different layers and elements to it, and kind of depending on what kind of show you're involved in. And so the acting, just like the animation and the sound effects and the music and everything, needs to follow what the intent of the show is. And so I think people have gotten better from the top down at identifying what the different sounds need to be and letting the shows be what they are and having the actors support that.
And also to the point of like the casting pool getting bigger, like I'm sure back in the day there were plenty of actors to pick from, and it's not like people were lazy and unable to go out and find actors. But I was talking to one guy, he did 90s dubs in New York. He had his own studio. And he was like, yeah, back then, if a show had any sort of racy elements, if anybody got, you know, sexually assaulted, or you could see nudity or anything like that, he's like, the amount of actors who were willing to do it, he's like, I had a show, the main character gets into a very sticky situation, and he was like, I could not give that part away. The main character of the show, he's like, nobody wanted to do it. Nobody. Not a single person wanted to do it. And he's like, so eventually I ended up having to call in a favor. He got a buddy of his who did theater to come and perform that main character. And that character, his performance has been critiqued over the years, but you get that context of like, nobody wanted to play this part, and it's like, well, yeah, man, you get who you're gonna get, and they're gonna come and give you what they're gonna give you. But now, there are a lot of actors who are willing to do anything in an anime. And you have so many different people to pick from that it's like, where's your line? Where's your line? What kind of stuff do you want to do? and that means that you have a much wider selection of like quality people who are down for anything, and that definitely also probably contributed.
But I mean, yeah, but like back in the day too. I mean, like I know Goku was Sean Schimmel's first audition. You know, and like he didn't even want to go. He just wandered in apparently. Steve Bloom got his first role by getting off the elevator at the wrong floor. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Like, you're not discovering Marilyn Monroe at a diner, you know.
Yeah. I mean, now you're discovering indie voice actors online, and for the most part, they have years and years of experience doing indie stuff.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah, they're already amazing when they come in and play their first anime character because they've been doing 5-6 years of online stuff. It's just different now.
Questions? Yes.
Okay, so nowadays because anime is getting so big and so much is coming out, do you guys have to work on multiple of it, directing multiple anime, or only one or two at a time?
Depends on the season. Directing, I'm usually doing one at a time, but sometimes they overlap. I know that there are some seasons where I'll have two side by side, and there was a season where I had 3. Don't recommend doing that. Bad idea. If you're a writer, you're going to be doing many.
And you know, it depends on whether you're a staff member at a company or whether you're working contract, because I was a contract writer for many years before I went full-time at Crunchyroll on staff. Yay, insurance. But when you're a contractor, it's like everything is a question mark. Like if you don't take this writing or directing or acting opportunity, you might not come across something else for 6 months. They might not notice you for 3 months, you know. So there's this mindset of like, I gotta take everything I can while I can get it. And then you get overworked and want to die.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it happened to me where I got a show offered to me at one place, and they were like, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, "I'm already doing another show for you, and that show is very intensive. I can't possibly do 2 at the same time." And they were like, "Okay," and then they never hired me again.
is it my thing?
Yeah, probably. So that can happen, but at the same time, I mean, they want to go faster and faster and faster because there's so much anime. You have to set your own limits. So like I said, I did 3 directing one season, and I said, nope, that's not sustainable. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So 2 is my limit for directing, and I can write one thing at the same time as that, nothing more. And they will give you as many things as they can if you say that you can do it, but you can't at a certain point because you're only human.
Right. Yeah.
I don't work in anime anymore. I work on like, well, you know, sometimes you gotta work on multiple games, but like, or multiple like DLCs and stuff like that. But I don't know. Since I work in a place now where we write and create the content as opposed to like having it just like mailed to us. Like if things get too crazy or whatever, I just go to the writer's room and yell.
Bring your mallet.
Yeah, a lot easier.
Right.
We got 10 minutos left, so.
What's the one line that you've either directed or written or, you know, whatever, that lives rent free in your head all the time?
Go fuck yourself. That was I put an F
Just
word.
asking a question.
If it could have been anybody but Gigi, but I knew Gigi gets me. No, I put one F word in a script ever, and it was in cross-ange because in Japanese she said "eat shit and die," and I thought that's a good equivalent. Yeah, and so the only reason that lives rent-free in my head is because people ask me all the time, "Do you put F words in dubs?" And I said, "Not anymore."
The one time.
Just that one time, and I'll treasure it always.
The one that sticks in my head, I was the script supervisor on Full Dive, which the word shittier is in the title of that show, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we assumed that we could curse in Full Dive. Turns out no. Full Dive was rated TV-14, so they were like, you can't have all these curse words in here. We were like, oops. So it was my job to go in and change all of the curse lines into something else. So shit show became dumpster fire, that sort of thing. And there were a lot of sons of bitches in there. And I changed it to son of a whore, which is allowed. I was like, this one's not a curse apparently. So it kind of became a staple of the show. It became like the catchphrase of the show because it was just so funny. It was like, we're allowed to say son of a whore. Whore. So Son of a Whore was all over that show, and it has since appeared in other sound cadence dubs as a reference back to Full Dive.
Good.
So that one, 100% lives in my brain rent free because I'm looking for places to put it. It's in Drive 9, where one character admonishes another for his language. And so I was like, so then he's got to say son of a whore. That's got to be the connection.
It's got to be something big enough for that character to have a problem.
But you can't curse.
Yeah.
So it's got to be the Full Dive, non-curse, allowed line. So definitely that one.
I have one line that appears in 2 shows, but I do want to confirm we are all adults in here, right?
It's too late.
I know, no, it's about to get worse. So I was, I believe, the lead character in a show called We Without Wings, which was Funimation's first fully animated cum shot. I actually voiced Funimation's first 2 cum shots. And well, the first one was in that, and the second one a year later or so was in Penny and Stocking. And it's the same sound in both shows. The first one, it's like the guy, it's this medieval isekai kind of thing, and he gets like shot by a poison arrow, and like this girl's got to get the poison out. So there's oh yeah, she like oils up, and like it's just like, you know, and it was. Yeah, and then in Penny and Stocking, it's like he's watching a video of like Brief is watching a video of Pansy that's like, you know, like half dressed or whatever, and you think he's all sad, and he goes, "Oh, Pansy," and then you see his hand reach over to a box of Kleenex, and it cuts to black, and you hear him, and then it like splashes the end in white across the black screen. But in both shows, one of them's kind of a drama, and the other one's definitely Penny and Stocking. But both shows, at the moment of truth, I just went. Because it's the sound. That's what I was told. That's what.
That's one of those situations. Like, if I had a nickel, I'd have 2 nickels. Just for one. But it's weird that it happens twice.
Oh boy.
We have one more. It's gonna just keep getting off the rails.
Probably.
Someone ask us a clean question. Clean, wholesome family
It's not
question.
gonna happen.
No.
Literally, all she asked was what's the line that is rendering.
You guys like
Yeah,
these
I thought
They're all bad. All bad.
But those are the fun, like those are the best lines to put in shows.
Yeah.
We when we were doing Gletmere, those scripts were written by Leah Clark, and then I was the script supervisor, and I got to punch up a little bit on. They were already really good scripts, so it was just like the easiest job in the world. Where I was like, I'm just gonna slide in here and make this worse. And the main character can turn into, it's Brian McKean's character. He can turn into a dog suit, and then the main girl can unzip him and step into the suit and pilot him like Fleshman. And she's very demanding.
Please
and so
never say flesh mech again.
that's what it is. She's very demanding, and she has a line where she says, "All right, go dog mode now." And I was like, "Doggy style." It was right there. And also the show's very sexy, so like it totally fit. I was like, put that in there, make Brittany Karbowski say it.
She doesn't care.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. That's true. She's an island of giant insects, and she says some of the worst stuff in that dub. It's very funny. Yes.
So like slang is always changing and like it's becoming younger and younger. How do you keep up with all the new phrases like that would off or
You mean like new
Slang?
Yeah.
As a writer, I try to make things as timeless as possible. I don't put like, I'm not gonna put like "okay boomer" or like or anything
I
like
think
that.
the most important thing is if you're gonna put slang into a script, it has to be slang you understand.
Yep.
The worst thing you could do is misuse slang. So if I come across slang that I don't understand, I either look it up or avoid it. Like, don't put it in your script if you don't get it, because then it's gonna be cringe.
And you want people to watch it, maybe 10 years from now and not go, ugh. That didn't age well. You can tell this is from 2020.
But then on the other hand, stuff like, groovy, you can still say it, but it comes from a time period. And it's just like, you don't know what's going to be lasting. So sometimes I roll those dice. I go like, I'm going to put slang in this show, maybe not this one, and just hope that slang lives.
Yeah.
forever.
I try to stay up on slang, but I don't use it. Like, I was like, I'm curious. What do you? Oh, okay, that's dumb.
It's
Just for you.
It's
Yeah.
just one of those things where, case by case, there's one scene in Actors Songs Connection where a character is greeting another character in the morning, and it's 2 ridiculously long flaps, and they ended up putting in "What's up?" And it's like, that's a dated reference, but it's funny in context, so it's like, it's fine.
I still say that every day.
I mean, when is it? It's like from the early. Is it from the
It's from
90s?
Scary Movie.
Is that from? Is it from the 90s?
Like late 90s.
Yeah. So at this point, it's. I mean, it's getting up there as far as
It's
being
timeless.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where you just have to make a judgment call.
Yeah, it's always a judgment call. And like, sometimes you just get a character that needs to talk in slang. Like, I'm really proud of myself because, I forget what show it was, but Bonnie, the like, big supervisor of the writer department, she has an official title, I can't think of what it is right now. The leader of the writers, she came to me one time and she was like, Caitlin, you're our slang expert. And I was like, I didn't know, but I'll put that on my resume.
I mean, a good example, we did a show called Sleepy Princess and the Demon Castle. That show is steeped in Howard Wang's humor, specifically. And some of it, I'm like, it's not going to be timeless. Some of it is going to become dated over time, but it's the flavor of the show, and it's just, if it's good, you do it. You just go for it. But like characters saying dead ass and calling each other big, like it's stuff that's not a joke out of context, but once you hear it, you're like, it's clearly a joke.
Yeah.
Or like, there's a scene where the princess goes to glory, but like in the dub. Those kinds of jokes are very funny if you get him. And by the time you get to that episode, you're absorbing his humor through osmosis. And it's like, in that context, in that show, in that instance, slang and references work. But then there are other shows where it's like, don't do it.
Yeah.
You better not.
I was in the writer's room a while back when we were still on site, and one of the writers said, "Hoggers?" And I said, "Stop, what is that? What are you doing?" And he explained it to me, and I made him promise never to say it again. Most slang, I was like, "Oh, that's fun." Like, BBL, okay, cool. But then I was like, I hate you.
I have to tell you something. Today, when you're like, come to we're over here.
The bar, it was the
And
bar.
the bar, anyways. And you like sent me a photo, and I typed, oh hell yeah, Pog, and then I deleted it. I was like, I can't say Pog, but Joel,
No, you're
no,
right.
I'm not
You're
Pog
right.
yet.
Yeah, that's a good call. Lightning round. Do you want to do like give us short, stupid questions, and we're gonna answer them in like 2 words each?
Okay.
Yes.
Favorite fast food?
Taco Bell.
Jack in the Box.
McDonald's.
Anybody else?
Which show do you get most excited about when people mention it to you?
My girlfriend is show bitch.
Navaka.
Space Baby. Anybody else? Next one. We're gonna keep going until you guys are done.
Why does this have my heart rate up?
What's your Starbucks order?
I don't drink coffee.
My boyfriend owns a coffee shop. I can't go to Starbucks.
I don't go to Starbucks.
I get a vanilla frap if they make me go.
I put Irish cream in my coffee cup. Anybody else?
We messed that one up. That was
I
a
know,
trick.
yeah.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One piece of advice to someone doing VO in their first animes.
Oh, God.
One piece of advice.
Don't act like a weeb when you come in.
True.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Don't-
pretend you're already an actor.
Yeah, pretend you like, oh, anime, that's cool. I guess I'll do that. That's fine, whatever.
And
Even
don't
if they're
stress
like,
too much. The director's going to expect if it's your first one that you're going to be learning stuff.
Yeah.
So don't freak yourself out if you don't know the terminology. You don't have to.
Yeah. Anybody else?
That's a
Anybody
good
else?
Drink of choice?
Oh wait, here, go.
Bubble tea flavor.
Yeah, go for that one.
What'd you say?
Bubble tea flavor.
Bubble tea. I don't drink bubble tea either.
That's
I
fine.
don't drink
Thai
either.
tea.
Tap.
Thai tea.
Starbucks.
Alright, time's up.
Yep, that's it. All right.
He's my healer.
Oh, is it?